Hey geeks, it's Minx, and I'm gonna do the Agent Carter review. I'm actually gonna be reviewing episode 4 and 5 since I missed last week due to my computer being down for the count. With that said, let's jump into it. Episode 4 was a little bit unique. We actually got to see a lot of flashback scenes, giving us more character development for Peggy and our new villainess. Whitney Frost. We get to see some interesting stuff from their past. With Peggy, we get to see a very quick view of her as a child, showing her adventuresome spirit, and then we get to see some time prior to meeting Cap and everything going on in Captain America. It was kind of nice actually getting to see some of those because you actually end up finding out what her true motivation for ultimately becoming a spy was, and I thought that was really intense and kind of struck close to home. Um, she spent most of her life, pretty much getting it pelted into her that she was a woman and she didn't, she should be more subservient and not be so rambunctious. And there was an interesting parallel between both of the flashbacks from both characters because they kind of had a similar thing going on where they're being told and uh, battered with the message that, men don't want, in Peggy's case, men don't want somebody adventurous. They want someone more meek and demure. And Whitney Frost is getting battered with the message from her mother that men don't want brains, they want a pretty face. It's kind of an interesting tell about how misogynistic those times were, and kind of a example of them commenting on current events in the world because there is still a lot of misogyny out there. It was kind of interesting, and then it also kind of shows how both of them turned out and how both of them kind of ended up on their own paths. And though the journeys are kind of and experiences are kind of parallel, how they turned out was drastically different. Um, with Peggy, she ended up becoming kind of a super spy, super sleuth, as a complete badass, and Whitney Frost ended up being an evil genius, well, probably super genius at this point, who hides behind a mask of beauty. It's very interesting two sides of the coin. Uh, so that was really quite funny. We also got to see Peggy work a lot closer with Sousa, who's now insisting, we're supposed to be a team. I want to help you, but you gotta let me in. So that was actually nice to see. We haven't really got to see them working truly together. We also see just how deeply the Arena Club actually has a hold in government agencies because we see a reoccurrence of the old dude uh, who kind of got Thompson to back down and, kind of get out of the way, show up to audit the SSR and pretty much just take their files and, shut them down right before they're about to raid the Arena Club. So, hello, timing there. But as usual, Peggy goes a little bit rogue and takes Sousa with her. And so they end up kind of finding out some crazy shit. She finally gets one back on the guy who tried to assassinate her. They shoot him with a tranquilizer dart and then shoot him up with some sort of failed vaccine, making him think that he's got like malaria and that he's gonna die. Uh, they get some information, and then they bug him and set him free, and he ends up turning tail and running back to Whitney and her schmucky wannabe senator husband. What's his name? Chadwick, I think. It's like, what kind of pompous name is that, really? Um, and then he makes the mistake of admitting that he gave up info, and Whitney goes all fucking batshit crazy and uses the zero matter that's inside of her on him, and now she's got a fucking crack starting up. I mean, it's starting to look like the San Andreas fault on her face, and she suddenly declares at the very end of the episode, "I need an atomic bomb." So everyone's kind of freaking out at this point, and it was an excellent place to leave off. Um, Line of the episode, there was really too many good lines to actually narrow it down. So I'm gonna, plus with me also doing a review for episode 5, I think I'm gonna forego line of the episode for this week. Um, but for this episode independently, I would actually give it an A minus for the fact that there was so much very awesome character development and parallels between our heroine and our villainess. The character development on Peggy and getting to see her motivations for becoming who she is, um, and why she's so headstrong and just rebellious was awesome. It was amazing. And getting to know our villainess and the way they portrayed it, I actually felt sorry for her, which for a good villain, it's kind of nice to get that kind of, emotional reaction from it. So I'm gonna give it an A minus. Now, if we jump to the next episode, episode 5, um, we get some crazy stuff happening. We get some funny stuff, and we get a huge WTF moment that had me freaking out just a little bit when I saw it. Something I definitely didn't think was going to happen. We get, you know, thanks to the fact that, they now know that Whitney wants a bomb. So now they've got to figure out how they're going to stop her. And pretty much the closest available atomic bomb is, oh, what's the dude's name? It's one of Howard's rivals, and we met him in season 1, actually. And he's a schmuck who's also a part of the arena club. So he's got like a building that's like Fort Knox. And so they have to figure out how to break into there. Well, unfortunately, there isn't that many agents left in which they can trust because of all the arena club stuff going on. So they end up pulling together a hodgepodge misfit group that includes Rose, who everyone recognizes as the receptionist, head receptionist chick. She's freaking awesome. She's hilarious. And she's even taken the comedic reins from Jarvis in a couple of episodes, and that really made me happy. They get to bring her along. At first, Sousa was kind of against it, and then Peggy called him out on him being somewhat of a misogynist about it, and pointed out also that Rose is trained just like she is. It's not until he actually sees her take somebody down who was getting a little bit, you know, uh, handsy that he was finally like, all right, fine. And they also get one of the scientist who's been working with them off and on in the episodes over this whole ordeal to also come with them. And of course, Jarvis, as always. They end up giving Peggy this crazy little machine that kind of like the little memory eraser from Men in Black, only it's like a weird electroshock thing that you hook up to somebody's head like this, and she ends up using it on on the douchebag dude. It's supposed to erase like the last 2 minutes of your memory, but it seemed to be running. It seemed to be wearing off a lot faster than that. He is a total schmuck, trying to hit on her because he thinks she's like a secretary or something, and he's trying to be all suave and shit. And he walks away, and then he's like, "The agent!" And it happens like 5 times until finally she practically knocks him out with it. And then she has to almost completely strip him because she realized, ah, shit, the key's probably on him. It ends up being in his belt buckle. She's just sitting there like, oh, God, you're saving the world. You're saving the world. You're saving the world. Oh, my God. It was great. She ends up shocking him to the point where he really doesn't remember her even being there at all, which is probably a good thing. So their hodgepodge band of misfits breaks into this place. You get to see Rose kick a little ass. You get to see, the scientific dude trying not to get down on himself. And Jarvis has to dismantle an atomic bomb. Uh, I believe Sousa tells him, just think of it. It's just like taking a souffle out of the oven. And afterwards, a very visible Jarvis who's completely shaken up, as he should be, for trying to remove, a freaking, shit. Like, I think it's like a uranium rod or platinum or plutonium rods or something out of these bombs. He's like, it is not. He goes, for your information, it is not like removing a souffle. Because, Jarvis. So that was pretty epic. That's going on. Carter decides to take on Whitney because she figures out that they're in like the next hallway over, almost to where the bombs are at. And they have this epic battle. Whitney grabs her and starts like affecting her with the zero matter. And, Peggy, she's like, it's excruciating. I can't handle it. And she ends up flipping off onto, hanging on like the scaffolding that they're on top of, and she ends up going, Whitney is just like, yeah, yeah, you're done, and like flips her off of there. And this is the WTF moment. She ends up landing on rebar, and she literally gets impaled, and I freaked the hell out because I was like, oh my god, you can't like kill her off. Because obviously we already know that when I think it's like, was it the beginning of Winter Soldier? One of the Cap movies, she's still alive. I think it was Winter Soldier. She doesn't die until then, so obviously she's not gonna die. But it still freaked me the shit out because I'm like, oh my god, why? Why are you doing this? Um, Sousa finds her, freaks out, takes her to Violet, who earlier in the episode he has proposed to, and she's accepted. And bad news bears, Violet kind of figures out that Sousa's still conflicted. He's still got a thing for Peggy, and so she's just kind of like, you need to figure this shit out. Um, but she patches Peggy up, and Jarvis takes Peggy home, and Wilkes is talking to her, and he ends up fading and disappearing. And he was talking about earlier about how he's being called. The zero matter or the rift or whatever it is calling to him. And he ends up slowly fading until he poofs back out of existence. And that's where the episode ended. Um, the episode overall, I'd give a B plus. There wasn't as much character development, but I liked the fact that they brought in the supporting cast into a more prominent role. I liked seeing Rose actually get to be a part of the team in a more hardcore manner. Getting to see somebody else, another female, actually bust things up like Peggy style was really awesome. It wasn't just Peggy this time. Jarvis, once again, showing how awesome he is by diffusing an atomic bomb, was great. Getting to see the scientist dude come out, whose name escapes me right now. And to finally see the conflict with Sousa and seeing it come to a head with Violet, was great. And also Violet kind of figuring it out pretty quickly after seeing them together with, Peggy in such a vulnerable position, as hurt as she was. Um, I liked that because it shows that she is smart and she's not just going to overlook that. Also, I'm kind of glad that they pulled it out because I wasn't sure if they were going to wait until like the end of the season and just leave it as a cliffhanger or not. It'll be interesting to see who Sousa picks, if he's going to stick with Violet, out of, honor, obligation, or if he's going to follow his heart and go with Peggy. There's also the bit that's up in the air about, Dr. Wilkes. Is he ever going to become fully solid again, or is he stuck just being affected by the zero matter? Part of me feels like, unfortunately for Peggy, it's going to come down to one of those things where he's going to have to um, go with the zero matter. Like, I feel like he's going to end up having to become one with it, and, bye bye love life for Peggy again. I feel so bad for her because I feel like she just has such bad luck in love. So yeah, again, no line of the episode. There was just too much to choose from. But I will get back to that on our next episode. As always, if you liked this review, please click that little red button down there that says subscribe. It really helps me out, guys. Like, comment. I always respond to comments whenever possible, which has been pretty good. Also, you can follow us on Facebook. The link for that is below as well. Look forward to my X-Files reviews when it comes back on Once Upon a Time reviews. And I'm working on a couple of other reviews, but it depends on if I can get caught up on the shows. So, with that said, later, geeks.